today's video is not one I really wanted to make, to be honest. Not because I don't love you all, of course I do, but I've got a problem with the tyre valve. A while ago I put these little fellas on, which look lovely and decorative and all that lot, but they're made from Chinesium, a Chinesium alloy of probably unknown composition. And while you're checking your tyre pressures every week, couple of weeks, whatever, once a month, they've been fine. But because Slinky stood idle through the furlough and all this lot for basically most of the year, they've corroded on. Now, I've got 3 off without much hassle, did all the tyre pressures and what have you. But there's one will not come off. And I've had the mole grips on the stem, mole grips on the valve cap, and all it's done is rip the stem. It's not coming off. So this video today is, like I say, not really one I wanted to make, but we're going to have a go with a valve insertion tool, which if you've never seen before, I will show you. Now, this is designed for cars, motorcycles, lawnmowers, all that lot, and it's designed so you can put a tyre valve in without removing the tyre, because I haven't got the ability to do that. So this is what it is basically. You've got a tool for shoving alongside the tyre valve and ripping it out. That's the theory. You're learning this as I am. There's an insertion cone which you grease up your valve, and I've got some valves. I don't know whether these are going to work because they're a shorter stem, but hey, it's better than nothing. And there's an insertion tube. Yeah. Oh. And no, you can't get it down it, chaps. And then there's the insertion tool, which is basically a smacking rod with a threaded end, where you screw the valve in at the end and then ram it down the tube, and then you're supposed to force it sort of into the wheel and then pull it back up again to seat the valve. So I'll try and rig you up so you can see, and we'll see if we can get the valve out first. Right, I've got the wheel up on the bench for ease of easiness. Now, this is the valve removal tool. God, focus, you fuck. As you see, it's got a hookage on the side of it, and the idea is you force it down the side of the valve, turn it 90 and pull the valve out. I don't know how well I'm going to be able to film this, to be honest, because I'm using a holder, a phone holder and all that lot, but I don't know how much you're actually going to see. I'm going to try and position you so you can actually see something. Is that going to work? Is that going to work? Oh, for fuck's sakes. No, probably not. Is that going to work? You're going to move. Hang on. Oh, you'd think I'd get this nailed by now, wouldn't you? Sorry, chaps, but I'm struggling to get the camera stable, to put it where you can see what you're doing without it falling over, because obviously it's going to take a bit of effort to get this out, and the camera's just going to fall over. And I'm using the phone, so I don't want to wreck the phone, because I'm too lazy to go and get my GoPro, basically. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to sort of photograph or do a very short video of each stage when I'm in the process of doing it, and then hopefully when it's all tied together it might make sense. No, when did anything on this channel make sense? So the tool's in and it's just letting the air out, and then we turn it 90 degrees and we should be able to pull the valve stem out. So I'll crack on with that and bring you back. So valve stem's out. You can see how the tool hooks behind it. It needed a bloody good tug for now, but it's out. Next step, we're going to lube this one up with rubber grease and shove it in. So focus, you fuck. I've used brake grease, the red stuff, because obviously we know it's friendly with rubber. And then I'll go and shove it down my hole. We're on our way to get a tyre fixed. A tyre fixed. A tyre fixed. Yes, it's early Sunday morning. And my lion has gone to shit. Oh, lovely, nice clear road. I'm in Flow the Micro. And for reasons I will show you when I return from whence I am going, you will understand why I'm taking the tyre. It's a little bit of lack of observation on my part. Tyre valve removal tool worked really well, brilliantly. Ram it down the side, turn it, pop it straight out. Requires a bit of a to get it out, but it pops straight out. The problem was putting the new one back in, which I will show you shortly. Anyway, we're in Flow the Micro. This is Mumsy Shed's car. Get some lights on your bell end. Some road safety advice there. And I think she's had this 4 or 5 years. It's a little 1200 Micro, 2005, the bubble shape, the best shape. And I love this car. I love this car because the amount of people that tailgate you in it because they think you're 80 years old just going Lidl for cat food is hilarious. Especially when they see it's a fat bloke with a temper who's staring at them in the rear view mirror. They soon back off again. If I would have had this as my first car back in, I would have been really happy with it. Dictionary definition of a car, it fulfills. A lot of people, they slag cars, little cars off like Micras and Yaris's and stuff like that. But the fact is, this has got one of them heater things, which I'm going to have to turn down, power windows, but it's such a nice car to drive. I love driving it. Mrs. Shed doesn't. Mummy Shed hardly drives anymore at all, so my uncle tends to use this a lot. But it's just, even the gear changes are nice. It's a cheeky car to drive. It handles well, it handles like a fucking go-kart. But it's just one of those things. I could drive this to the mansion in Scotland, no bother at all, and I'd enjoy the drive. It's also the first time we saw the bubbly styling from Nissan, which then went on to the Duke and stuff like this. And the great thing about this, when you've got your side lights on, you can actually see them. I can actually see the side lights. Good, innit? They do have some problems. The wiper linkages have failed, and that's it. There are no problem on Nissans for the wiper linkages to fail, so I replaced it with a British replacement, which was dead easy. It's just literally a new set of linkages with more beefier ball joints, and it did the trick. And as usual, they failed in heavy rain, always the way. But yeah, done that, fixed it now, and this is a 2005, it's got 87,000 miles on it. Pretty much still drives like new. It's just a fun, cheeky little car. And the only people that deride cars like this are people with extremely small cocks that like to drive BMWs and stuff like that. Because apparently you haven't made it in the car rankings if you don't have something like an Audi or a BMW. Well, I've had Audis, stuff like that, and to be quite honest, they weren't built that well. We've had Volkswagens whose reliability was not brilliant. If you want reliability, you go Japanese. that's the rules. I'm going to go through town because we have a learner motorcyclist in front of us, and bless him, he ain't that confident. The roads are wet. Not wet, just damp. And I hate riding in the damp. I don't know why. It's probably because nearly every time I fell off my 125, my rite of passage, it was on damp roads. And it's funny because since being a test rider and all that lot, obviously we ride in all conditions, unless it's extremely icy or 6 foot of snow. We tend to be riding. I mean, I rode an MT-09 the other day, and it's been a few years since I rode an MT, and the last MTs I rode was, I think it was an MT-10 and an MT-3, whatever it's called, little 350. That was useless, fucking useless. You may as well have got out and walked. It was hilariously slow, not just for a motorcycle but for any form of transport. To be honest, it wasn't that much better than a 125. Mind you, the price of 125s today, you could buy a 750 for the same price as a 125. We're not a lad! But didn't like the 350 at all. It was just too underpaid. It wasn't that much more powerful than a 125. Didn't feel like it anyway. Didn't go down the road very well. Bit skittish on the handling. They're too light. This is the problem. The light bikes are skittish. I've always said big bikes are a lot safer. As absurd as that sounds, because you think, oh, they got so much power and all this lot. It's, as far as road holding, new word, copyright it, road holding, handling and stuff like that, big bikes are way better than tiddlers, way better. Unless you're on a racetrack, then it's sort of the opposite case, because a tiddler will annihilate some big stuff in the corners. But it's like, if you were going down a windy highland road, for example, where you could open the taps a little bit, would you sooner do it in a 1 litre Toyota Yaris, or would you sooner do it in a 911? I know what choice I'd make. Yaris, no, 911, because it's built to do it. Big bikes are built to do their top speed. Tiddlers are built to get arses on seats. Simple as that. It's not that they're not developed any less, because they're not. But yeah. So anyway, I did this MT9 I rode. Oh, they've come on a bit. I mean, this I rode the other day. It had cruise control and God knows what else. Fairly hard suspension. I'd say it's set up on the sporty side. Useless pillion accommodation, as is the MT. Byword, they're horrible for pillions. Absolutely horrible. Ask us how we know. Ask Mrs. Shed how she knows. It's the only motorcycle I've ever took a pillion out on that wanted to get the train home. The only one. That includes ZXRs, R1s, the old R1s, KR1Ss, even 125s. That, the MT3 and the MT10 were the only bikes I've ever ridden where the pillion didn't want to get back on. And that's not to do with my riding style, because they're used to it. So that speaks volumes. Any other bike, I mean, we had about, I think we were testing 30 odd different bikes back then to try and find an engine combination that worked for a certain manufacturer. And we had all sorts, from Harley 750s, we had all the Triumph Twins, we had all sorts from all manufacturers. We had Kawasaki Eliminators. That was a great little thing, really good. I fell in love with that, but it broke my arse, because like a moron I did like something like 350 miles in a day on it, and I knew I'd done it on that, but I enjoyed it. Lovely handling bike. That was, I think that I think it was a Eliminator 650 or something like that, similar capacity. I'm guessing it's the same engine as the ER6. But yeah, that was a good buy. But I'm now in Hinkley Town. I would show you, but take the labels off it, it's just like any other town, to be honest. Sometimes it's a lot quicker for me to go where I'm going if I go through Hinkley Town than actually use the perimeter roads, as odd as that sounds, because town doesn't tend to be so busy, and you're a bit more relaxed. I'm relaxed anyway, but you know. So yeah, so we're on the way to get the tyre fixed, so you'll know more later, won't you? Because I've already done why I'm having to take the tyre to be fixed. Well, it's not the tyre that needs fixing, although it needs replacing, to be fair. He is due for back tyres, Slinky. He usually does. He's a bit like a motorbike. He'll do 2 sets of rears for 1 front, because he's rear wheel drive. So he is due. But those tyres that are on it, I think they've been on it. Which ones I had the fronts replaced because they were the wrong diameter. Wrong rolling diameter. If it's out by, I think it's more than 5% of the original rolling radius, stuff like the cruise control doesn't work because it can't compute it. And they've got some like no name fucking tyres on, which even on a 25 mile an hour wet roundabout would lose grip. They were terrible. So we got those replaced. We had Nexons put on the front under the recommendation of a local tyre place, Tyre Medics at Hinkley. Brilliant people, absolutely brilliant. So I had those done, and they've been brilliant. Not a squeak out of them. They've never ever lost grip, either under braking or all that lot. Not that a spank Slinky. It's really weird engine in Slinky because it's a 2.3 supercharged, which for Europe is a fairly big engine. And you think that's going to be a right fire breather, and they're not. They're torquey. They're only sort of 200 horsepower when they're fit. And Slinky's a 2001. So a few of them donkeys are going to be dead. But they're really torquey. They're really, really torquey. I think they were almost double what the 1600 MX-5 was at the time, and I think it was the 1800 Z3. Sorry, Z3 because we're British. Was at the time. The SLK had far more torquages, and it makes a hell of a difference because that's the shove that gets you down the road. You can have as much speed bump, Ali, as much horsepower as you want. If you've not got the torque to go with it, you may as well fart in a colander. So yeah, he's due rear tyres. Well, he'll be done, but Rosie's got to be welded, ideally before winter hits. We've probably had our 3 days of snow now, but she's got to be fixed anyway, Rosie. You know, like it or not, which the idea is to keep her on the road anyway. Rover 75s, there's more of them about than what you think, but they're not a car you see a lot of. It's a bit like, until you own a car, you never notice them. Have you ever noticed? You've probably noticed that you don't particularly notice a particular car until you own one, and then you see them about all the time. Well, that's not the case with Rover 75s. I see a few around our area, and I've always just loved the look of the things and stuff like that. But we're nearly where we need to be now, so I'm going to go and I'll come back later. It's always the way, innit? Tyres fixed. Took me, mate, 10 minutes. What I was struggling for 2 hours for yesterday. There is a lesson here, and I'm not going to learn it. No. You see, I was always told not to ask for help, really. Try and do as much as you can, but there needs to be a point where you realise you're trying to shove wet spaghetti up a cat's arse. It just isn't going to go. So yeah, so my mate's just done it, literally 10 minutes. Broke the bead of the tyre, put the valve in through the back end, job done. And he's rebalanced it for me, because obviously as the tyre wears, your balance changes. So yeah, he's done all that for a very reasonable hobgoblin price. So yeah, well happy with that. So anyway, we do need tyres on Slinky. So when we get back and I've fitted the wheel, we shall go on to Black Circles or e-tyres or something like that, even eBay, and we'll have a look. And we'll see what's what. So we've got to learn a burner in front of us. Come on lad, get your foot down. It's 50 mile an hour. Oh, Baharat. It's going to be right. He's literally in the gutter. He's in the gutter. He's not doing 50. So we're going. It's probably his first lesson. Can you remember your first driving lesson? I can. It was in a Fiat Uno. Well, my first proper driving lesson was in a Fiat Uno, because me and my mum both actually first learned to drive on an airfield outside Melton Mowbray, which I'd love to go and film on, because it's like nostalgia and all that lot. But my actually first proper lesson, and me and my mum had the same instructor, because me and my mum learned to drive at the same time. Well, not at the same time, because there's only room for one in the seat. But we had the same instructor, a guy called Dave Spires, and he was a very, very funny man. Really funny. Great instructor. Very, very patient. Very humorous. And yeah, well, he got the job done. But it's yeah, Fiat Uno for my first proper lesson, which was a lovely little car. I mean, I've drove, my cousin had a Fiat Uno Turbo once when they were brand new, and I drove that, but I hadn't been driving very long when I drove that, and like the clutch bit about, it felt like a half inch from the carpet. When you've not been driving long, sort of learning bike points and all that, it's sort of not in your arsenal very much. And it's like, I found that a struggle to drive, and I was going faster and faster in it, what I thought was fast then. And it's going, go on, it'll go quicker, go on, it'll corner quicker, and all this lot. But you're in somebody else's car and stuff like that. I've never been one to rape a car because it's somebody else's. Unlike my cousins, who will get on a motorbike and all that lot, and it's, you know, they're on the limiter going up the street. It's just how they are, just how some people are. But it's just how it is. But my second lesson, oh no, I think I had a couple of lessons in this Uno, and then he got a new car because one of his mates was a car dealer, and he got a then brand new Toyota Camry from Farmer and Carlisle at Lugabarren, mate. And it was just like coming off a push bike onto a motorbike. It was ridiculous. Such a lovely car, that Camry, for having never driven like a saloon before. Yeah, really nice car that is. You know, didn't have any bad habits, which is what you want if you're teaching people to drive. You want a neutral car. I mean, you could in theory teach somebody to drive in an F50, and you know, they'd probably make a really good driver. But it's not the done thing. Actually, I think quite famously, we've got a supercar dealer near us. He's quite famous, Tom Hartley, and he always tends to be like, he tries to get like the first of everything, because he buys people's spots. You know, when you register your interest in a car, he will buy that spot off the person, so he gets the car first, or he'll wait for them to have delivery and then he'll buy it, and they'll make on it, and he'll make on it. But he's like, I think very famously, I think one of his sons, I'm sure, took his took his test in an F50 or an F40 or something like that, and it was all over the papers at the time, and he says, well, it's completely logical to do, because this is the kind of stuff he's going to be tooling around in on a daily basis, so it makes sense that he took his test in something like an F50. Of course, it was a massive publicity stunt as well. The man never misses a trick, but he's like, it worked, you know, it is what it is. So we're on the way back to the shed. I've had no breakfast yet because it's only like, I don't know, 9:15 in the morning. It's far too early for a Sunday. I was going to go Mackie D's for a breakfast, and then I thought, no, I'll go home. Really fancy a poached egg. But whether I can be asked to do a poached egg, well, that's a different story. I don't know. What, bacon and egg? Know what I mean? Don't know yet. Depends what's in the fridge. You know, I've got bacon and I've got eggs. Got a nice bit of bread. I could have a bacon and egg sandwich. I could have bacon, egg, tomatoes, beef. Why do you do this? You make yourself hungry. I could just have a round of toast. So we'll see. So when I talk to you again, hopefully I would have got the wheel on, and I'll be signing off for this video. In fact, what I'll do is I'll sign off now, and then we're done, because all I've got to do is just put the wheel on, literally just that. But what I'm going to do underneath the wheel arch on Slinky, where the suspension is and all this lot, the rear brake calipers and discs and all that on Slinky are absolutely, they're spot on, they look perfect. But then he wasn't really driven last winter either, so we've kept him off the sole. But I've got some of that lanolin spray. It's not Lano Guard, it's called something like Lano Shield, whatever. But it's the same stuff, and it's made by a yacht maker in Scotland, or a boat builder. They use it all the time, so if it's good enough for that, it's good enough for my motor car. So I'm just going to spray under the wheel well and the suspension components, and then what it does, it suffocates any existing rust that's there, and then sort of just protects the surface. So that's literally going to just take 5 minutes. There's no point filming it. So I shall say goodbye and enjoy the rest of your weekend. And thanks for joining me in the shed again. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Just a simple like on a video, you'd be amazed how much that alters the algorithm. Why don't you come into my lane, you pikey cunt? Fucking hell. Well, he's just gone over 3 lanes in his fucking shitbox fucking pickup to get round an island. Sorry, I'm just dive. I got distracted there. Easily done. Squirrel! But yes, I forgot what I was saying then. Anyway, yeah, a simple like on a video, just a simple like, changes the algorithm to what people see when they log into YouTube and all this. Like, if they already watch similar catastrophic channels to mine, it's quite funny, because actually, like I said before, most of my traffic comes from a Google search. Because I suppose people are probably, the Rover 75 stuff is very popular. The Land Rover stuff doesn't do anything. I think we're just gonna stop doing Land Rover stuff. It's nobody fucking watches it, and you know, literally, if you said 100 people watched another video, probably 1 watches Land Rover stuff. There's that much out about Land Rovers. You're never going to struggle to find out how to do a job on a Land Rover on YouTube. So, I mean, as Carl rightly said, Carl himself has said that probably won't film anymore anyway, because if you own a Land Rover, chances are you know how to fix it. I'll put it this way, if you don't know how to fix it, you soon learn. It's just a Land Rover trait. It's called, the Italians would call it character. I call it being a bag of shit, but I love Land Rovers and I love Range Rovers and I love JLR products. The only problem with like being a test driver or being involved with something from prototype stage right through its life, because these cars and motorcycles, they are tested through their selling life. So while that vehicle is on the market, it is still being tested, believe it or not. You know, so it's really weird, because we can get into some prototypes and they haven't even got like a proper cab on them, or you know, anything like that. They've got no heaters, no air conditioning, no windscreen wipers. There's probably just fitted with like a race seat. It's literally a bucket with a seat in it, and it's, you know, but you're driving the very first iteration of a vehicle. And it's really, really funny, because one thing I find highly amusing is like when you read car magazines or watch car reviews, like your Auto Car and Car Wow and stuff like that, and how the fuck they come up with some of the shite they're saying, I don't know, because I've been very fortunate to drive a lot of supercars and stuff like that from prototype stage, not always, but you know, and literally within the first 10 minutes of being in these cars, you think, yeah, they've got this right, this is cock on. And it's definitely more, I like this, I like that, I love how the way they've done that. Sometimes you get the odd negative, sometimes the seat could be a touch more comfortable, you know, especially if it's supposed to be a GT car, the seat could be a touch more comfortable, or there could be a little bit more practical storage space in the cab, because when we go on a car trip, we basically fucking fill the cabin with food and stuff we're going to need at hand, like food, and then you know, the rest is like luggage space. Let's be a bit thoughtful about the luggage space. Now when you get in some of these cars which are in the tens of the thousands of the pounds in the high end, you haven't even got a door pocket to stick a phone in or anything like that, and you think, alright then, so you've lost practicality to start. That was for Robert. To start with, I have been farting, Rob, because I had chili chicken last night. It's like World War arse in here. But it's niggly stuff like that, because we see the bad side of the vehicle as well as the good side as it progresses through its development. We can get quite a jaded opinion on certain models and stuff like that, but it's only because you've seen them at the worst. But it's like these journos. I mean, there's a couple of us at work, and we play bullshit bingo whenever there's like a supercar review or a car review, which we've driven for thousands and thousands of miles. They've literally only been in it an hour, and then you know, like, tick the box, lift off understeer, lift off oversteer, and all of this bollocks, DSG gearbox, flappy paddle. And what really fucking annoys me is that some of these journalists, they'll get in like a Bentley Continental, which is a GT car. It's designed to whisk you across continents in utter luxury and still be able to remove your own spleen when you get to the other side. You should be totally unflustered. And Bentleys are like that. The most comfortable, most relaxing car I've ever driven is a Bentley Bentayga. It was just astonishing. And now they've restyled it a bit. It don't look too bad, to be honest. First ones were a bit of a dog's breakfast, but new territory for them. But it's like, you've built something which allegedly you can do 1,000 miles in one stretch, not a problem at all. And then they're driving the thing around on flappy paddles like it's a manual. Some of these, you know, they have 8-speed gearboxes is now common. Some Fords automatics are 10-speed with a flappy paddle, and they're driving it like it's fucking manual. They're going around and you see them going, oh yeah, it's really not. Oh yeah. Just stick it in auto and leave it, because trust me, they work so much better when they're left to sort it out on their own. You will never be, the likes of you and me, a better driver than the car. Not a modern car, if it wasn't for the fact that stability programs and stuff like that now are so good, half these BMWs you see with the backwards cap brigade in them and all this lot, they'd all be backwards in the ditch like we were in, you know, in our first cars. We all crashed, we all skidded, we all did daft stuff because we didn't have ABS, we didn't have stability control and all this lot. All that was your right foot. And you're not as good as you think you are. People overestimate their capabilities because the car is just making up for so much of it. That's why these little backwards cap tits in the 1 Series BMWs and stuff like that go flailing around everywhere. The car's sorting it out for them. And all this really started in car culture with the Skyline. A car whose selling point was it was impossible to crash because it would sort all the traction out and everything itself. There you go, cyclist just come straight out onto a 60-mile-an-hour road. You fucking wanker. And I've just called him a wanker. He's just come straight out of a junction without looking on a 60-mile-an-hour road. And they wonder why we fucking hate him. Oh, never mind. Anyway, I'm ranting now. 10 minutes ago, I was signing off. So I'm going. So don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more mild ranting from an angry fat man in a shed. See you all again soon. Well, the problem I mentioned, here it is. It's still early in the morning. Got the valve out fine, but the tube to put the valve back in doesn't fit, so the valve actually mushrooms as it comes out the end before it tries to get in the wheel. I have tried loads of stuff, ramming it down a funnel, I've tried making an extension for the tube, all this lot, it ain't working. So yeah, fixed now.